What happens when a level 1 player fights a level 15 boss? You would assume they would just get wiped out instantly, right? Well, not exactly. Like other RPGs, Zenith is based off a level progression system. The more quests you do and enemies you defeat, the more XP you'll get. And when you reach the XP goal, you'll level up, increasing your stats like damage and health. But what if grinding levels just isn't your cup of tea? Or maybe you're just on a time crunch? What can you actually do at level 1? Now, this question was on my mind for a while. But obviously, after you get through the tutorial, quests are going to be level locked, meaning you need to be a certain level to actually start them. But one thing isn't locked, and that's the actual world. You can still go through the entire world. None of it is level locked. You can walk right in. So I took on the challenge of default stats, default equipment, and no spells. How far can you actually go before you aren't even able to attempt to play this game? It really was an interesting journey, and I can tell you, it will blow your mind. And just to clarify, since we can't do any quests, the main goal of this challenge is to see what enemies we can beat at level 1. The idea is simple. Run in as a level 1 and just go slay some enemies. I really didn't think it would take too long and just be a small fun experiment, so I made a new character, appropriately named, and begun my journey in Zenith. Now I chose Mage DPS, and I had a good reason to believe it was the best class. Obviously, it would be nearly impossible to choose Blade Master, getting that close to an enemy just to hit it would spell disaster. And plus, I was planning on trying all 3 subclasses. So, I really didn't think this would take that long, but man, was I wrong about that. When I spawned into the tutorial area, I realized that the portal used to teleport you to the Nexus district never actually has to be unlocked. I didn't even need to do the 2 quests before you teleport, which would bring you to level 2, so we got saved there. So, straight in, no enemies killed yet. And skipping all the NPCs, I headed straight past the cooking quests to the bridge. I crossed it and begun the challenge. Let's start easy. Level 3 Trickster Sylphid. Being the first enemies in the game, it's pretty obvious you can do this at level 1. You have to, and that goes for the melee as well. However, I do remember a little difficulty at the start, specifically with the Berserk Sylphids. Any new player who's tried to fight this probably died trying. This one was definitely longer than it was harder, but I did almost die trying. But we were able to successfully kill it. However, with the amount of difficulty that took, I didn't actually expect this to take that much longer. So I swiftly moved on to the level 4 Sylphids and went for the Berserk as well. And this Berserk was tough, at one point getting me down to 5 health. But we tried. Yes. Now the next step up from here would be the Enforcers, since they're level 5. So I walked over to one, and
death isn't the end for an agent. You were recruited because of your natural connection to the...
But I noticed his health was going down quite a bit. I knew this was possible. So after respawning, I went back for another try. Let's just say it was a little difficult. I forgot that Enforcers attack in 4 swift motions, besides their magic attack, so it did catch me a little off guard. However, after respawning this time, I got a little sidetracked. Someone ran by the path to the Enforcer, and there was multiple Sylphids chasing him.
Look at him go.
And when I went to go check out why he was running, I realized these were level 5 Sylphids. So I took one on, and let's just say it was way easier than the Enforcer. Now I knew that Enforcer was a little difficult, so I decided to try a different path. Let's go to the village. Here at the village, you can find level 5 Berserk Sylphids. So in my head, I was like, okay, it's only 1 level up, and I could beat the 4 with, an alright amount of ease. Let's go for it. But level 5 Berserks are monsters. Nearly impossible to kill on Mage DPS, especially with the amount of room you have. You don't have much room to actually go around before you get out of range and he starts to heal up. I tried this for quite a bit, multiple tries, multiple failed attempts, but there isn't even that much room to move around, so you're either going to lose line of sight or lose your stamina. So I had to switch to tank to see if that was a better option. Right before, though, I did manage to kill level 5 Enforcer, so we're kind of in the middle there in level 5. But nonetheless, tank. But when I went for it, it was terrible. The main drawback from using tank is you don't get those charge shots, so building a stagger meter is extremely slow. And for reference, the stagger meter is built up as you hit the enemy, and when you do, the enemy gets stunned and takes way more damage for a little bit. But something like a DPS charged shot is gonna up the stagger meter way more than holding down a laser beam with tank. Plus, with how close you actually have to get to hit the enemies, you're in way too close of a range for safety. I did not even bother trying again. If I can't kill the Enforcer, there is no way I can kill the Berserk Sylphid. So, we had one more try, and that was with support. And I tried support last for a reason. When you charge a shot with primary fire and hit it in your radius, it actually heals you for 75 each shot. And this isn't a spell, you get this default with your gun at level 1, so this is legal in the rules. And I didn't really think it would help anyways, because I probably would get one shot pretty soon, but it did. So I went back, level 3 Sylphid, white. Now I didn't really notice it at the time, but that was kind of suspiciously fast. Just 2 double charge shots? Interesting. So I went back to the Enforcer one more time to see if I could beat DPS. 4 double charge shots.
What the heck?
And it took quite a while to kill an Enforcer on DPS, so this was crazy. So let's go to the real test. Berserk Sylphid, what we couldn't get past before. And after initiating the battle, I noticed it is doing quite a bit more damage. Still not too much, but enough to make the fight possible with the right technique. And as he made himself vulnerable, I went for the final strike.
Wow,
we actually did it. Level 5, Berserk Sylphid is down. Support is officially better than DPS and tank at level 1. However, we're far from done. And I assume the reason the support has so much base damage is to compensate for the lack of damage dealing abilities, but I could be wrong on that. But our real journey begins here, because there's nothing left in the Fractured Plains. We're going to the next area. We took a stroll and arrived at the Galleon Valley. The Galleon Valley is littered with Enforcers. I knew this would get a little bit tougher, but after figuring out his pattern, playing against him at level 5, and I was able to stagger him and finish him off. At this point I noticed that the stagger meter goes down extremely fast, and I knew soon it's not going to be possible to get a charge shot off in that state. So I would have to use it as sort of a stun, maybe to regain stamina. Moving on to the next enemy, the Exiled Gunner, was pretty easy. He stood still, and since he's ranged, it's easy to dodge him. And up next was the Anarchist, and I did think it would be a little easy, similar to the others, but halfway through the battle, I actually got hit and died. And this was a one-shot. Things were getting difficult. I tried again, and I chose another one, because the stagger meter stays in the state it's in when you die, so I didn't want that to affect the battle. This one dragged on, and we got really close, and he hit us. But we survived. I was quite perplexed on how just a few moments ago I got one shot, but this one didn't. Nonetheless,
how did we not die?
Move on. Now the main boss of this area lies here, and he's level 10 but way stronger. Now there is another boss that appears somewhere else when you have the quest up, but I didn't and it wasn't there. So this was the strongest enemy in the area. And as soon as I started the battle, I was down to 70 HP. But this is truly where I started to utilize the heal. Being able to heal 75 a shot right when I needed it was insane, and was a big reason why this challenge is possible. He took me in the water to have a water fight, but after 3 entire long grueling minutes,
yes,
I was able to come out on top. Boss done, next area. And I was just taking all this in. A level 1 support is able to take down a level 10 boss by himself. That is insane. Just imagine the possibilities if all the quests were already active and you can take them. And after taking down some easy rangers, we were on to the next area, the Emirate Forest. Now I started fighting level 12 rangers, and even though they're pretty easy to avoid because of their range, it still took quite a good amount of hits to actually kill them. Now the Essence Wolves are a little more unpredictable, but they do take a lot more damage in staggered form and don't have as much health. So we took down the wolf, then right below, we fought an Ent. Ents are very strong and take quite a while to kill. But the downside from that is his attacks are extremely slow and predictable. It took patience, but this was a very easy fight. Next is the star of the show, the boss. The boss hides away in a camp near the back of the area, but not that hard to find as long as you go along the main path. Throughout the fight, I was fortunate enough to get a crit spot on her leg, which means I do a little more damage when shooting her there. And the fight was going really well, except for one main issue. There were 2 other rangers right next to the boss, and I had to kill them first before I started the boss. But just like in all video games, enemies respawn, and I was caught off guard when they got in my range, and they ended up killing me right before I finished the boss off. This one wasn't fun, so I crawled back and tried again, and again. It took me 4 entire tries to finally defeat the boss. Level 12 boss down by a level 1 healer. So, it's time to move on. Scarlet Vale. The start of this was a little unique because rangers were already there, including another boss one at level 14. But with a combination of circling them, healing, and hitting the crit spots, we were able to take down all of them. Now, Scarlet Vale and Emirate Forest have very similar enemies, so if you wanted to predict what the next boss would be, you would probably be right. Just another one of the rangers. However, it was at this point that I had another problem brewing: my level. See, with all the enemies we've been killing, my experience bar has been building up, and we were just about to level 2. But it's a level 1 challenge, so I made a new character and walked all the way back to Scarlet Vale. And it didn't even take me that long, only about 5 minutes. So, time for the boss. But it was nothing like the beginning of Scarlet Vale. Like every first attempt, it was going great and I was really close to actually defeating her. But also like every first attempt, I get one shot out of nowhere. This wasn't fun. Especially with how long it took to get back to this spot, it just made this so grueling. So, we gotta try again. And I got one shot pretty early on. At this point, I was extremely frustrated. So, I made a long, grueling journey back once more, and before I got my second shot off, she hit me. But I'm sure that you could tell through this video, I persevered. I went one more time, and let's just say, it worked out.
Yes!
And I was
Yes!
extremely
Oh my God!
happy. We just defeated the Scarlet Vale boss. A level 1 healer beats a level 15 ranger without any upgrades. Base damage. Moving on to the next area, similar enemies once again. The wolves and the archers were no big deal. And with pride in my heart, I went towards the boss of the area. But it's a different story now. The main boss of the area is surrounded by enemies. And at this level, even normal enemies will take some time to defeat. Dodging 3 or 4 wolves is nearly impossible at level 1 with the amount of stamina I have. But you know those wolves that were surrounding the boss wolves? They're level 19, because I found one right next to the stairs and challenged him. Now there's a chance this could be possible. I did just beat a very difficult boss before, who says I can't do it now. But with the space this wolf controls, you can't actually run away from him without him getting out of your line of sight, which means he would heal back up. The problem with this is, he attacks so often, you don't have enough time to recharge your stamina, or you'll just get hit and instantly die. I gave it some effort, but it's not possible. I'm sure with enough time and dedication, there might be some workarounds for this. Maybe you stand on the top and shoot him from below. I'm sure that's an option. But I think I would rather spend a different day dedicating myself to finding ways around this. We're nearly 2 hours in, and already showed the game at a different perspective. So, I logged out as the game waited for my future return. The support mage has extremely powerful primary weapons. Through my alpha and beta tests and even playing now, I always chose DPS mage. I just found it fun and liked the style much better. But after finding out support does this much damage, maybe it's time for a switch. And I know support doesn't have any damage dealing abilities, and that's where a lot of DPS damage actually comes from. But I'm level 1, there's been no stat upgrades. That isn't much of an excuse to be able to slay level 15 bosses. And obviously the healing from the guns is really what pulled me through, but the damage was also way higher. And I'll leave you with that. And I'll be back to this, because I believe with enough time and effort, I'll get farther than where I stopped today.